I remember well my very first sip of wine. I didn't like it.
You've got these guys, they get uprooted from their own country, forced over the border into a foreign country. No knowledge of wine. What do they end up doing?
It's crazy to think we're going to be competing in a few weeks at the World Tasting Championships. A few years ago, none of us had ever tasted wine before.
Joseph, Marvin, Tinashe, and Pardon, Team Zimbabwe. It's like the Olympics of wine tasting.
The wine could come from anywhere in the world.
It's extremely difficult.
It's like Egypt putting together a team of skiers to go and compete in the Winter Olympics.
And then it just snowballed.
Now we have a coach. He was once the best wine taster in the world.
Bonjour! Crazy character?
I do what I want.
Do you think you can irritate?
Oh, immediately.
The odds are stacked against them.
We're going to make history.
In Zimbabwe, there was only the rich and the poor.
7 million people face starvation.
I couldn't let my family starve. Luckily, we made it into South Africa, but we almost died.
You try to explain it to someone else, they won't understand you.
Our journey is tattooed in our hearts. It's difficult to take it off.
Some of the most incredibly wonderful minds don't fit where we think they belong.
We're proud to welcome you because you're the best palates in the world.
Looking in my life and where I've come from and where I've been,
Mama, I love you all.
I think I actually do believe in destiny. This is where my heart is, and this is where my heart will always be.
It has been called The Cool Runnings of Wine. It is a movie of triumph. It is a movie of emotion. It is a movie of the human spirit. And it is a movie that celebrates Zimbabweans in wine, which is not a space that until a few years ago, many people would have put together. But in the context of Blind Ambition, it is now one that a lot of the world understands, thanks to 4 people who, with very little and certainly no knowledge of wine, crossed the border from Zimbabwe into South Africa, and now a decade or so later each are part of what has become one of the all-time great pieces of wine-based cinema. Good evening. Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay. Welcome to the Table Bay, Dan Really Likes Wine's home in Cape Town, where this evening's show serves not just as a show in itself, but also as a warm-up for a very special event a little later on this evening, where I will be hosting a special screening of Blind Ambition together with one of the quartet of sommeliers, the 4 wine musketeers who star in Blind Ambition. Joseph Dhafana is my co-host both this evening at the V&A Waterfront in Cape Town and tomorrow at Ster-Kinekor up in Johannesburg at the Mall of Africa. There are still a few tickets there. And so I figured, well, as we have got the show to look at this evening, let's catch up with Joseph beforehand and also see if we could track down the others. Now, we may or may not see Tinashe Nyamudoka, who is one of the 4, the former sommelier at the Test Kitchen, amongst others. He's currently on this midlife crisis trip through America, trying to visit every single bottle store that exists in the entire country. He's doing a pretty good job of it as well. If he can find some time and some Wi-Fi, he might drop in. We don't have Marvin. Marvin is in a Zoom call with his Dutch importer. He's also making wine at the moment. We do, however, have Pardon Taguzu, who joins us from Europe. He's also making his own wine from a rather unlikely destination, and he'll tell us more about that. And then our star of the show, who's with me today and will be joining me in just a moment, is Joseph Dhafana. You will know if you've been to La Colombe in the last number of years. And together with the other 3, a wonderful palate, a wonderful person, and a great addition to our Dan Really Likes Wine broadcast this evening. So that is coming up from the Table Bay in Cape Town in just a moment. It's a glorious day looking out across the waterfront, Table Mountain looking resplendent, crisp blue skies, and a perfect evening to lead into one of the great pieces of cinema for this year. So the movie to talk about, how it came about, everybody involved, and where it's left our 4 sommeliers now, all that coming up in just a moment. First of all, though, a little bit of news from the world of wine. Well, let's start with this quite ridiculous dinner. Even the 4 Zimbabwean sommeliers would raise an eyebrow at what is available here. This is a dinner I'm doing on the 15th of October, back down here in Cape Town with Roland Peens from Wine Cellar. And this is a dinner that is in aid of the Spiel charity, and it will reveal a selection of wine that includes, how's about this, the 2005 Angelus and Petrus, the 2000 Ausson, 2000 Pavie, some 96 Margaux, 89 Haut-Briand and Le Pen, some Cheval Blanc from 82, along with Lafite and Latour, some Decem from 67, Mouton Rothschild from 61, and La Mission Haut-Briand from 1959. You will taste every single one of those wines. I'm not sure there's ever been a better Bordeaux selection presented in South Africa. It will be at Aubergine, Harold Bresserschmidt's restaurant. He will do the dinner for the evening. It'll cost you 35,000 Rand, but if you look at those wines, that is a very, very good deal, provided, of course, you have the interest in Bordeaux and the means to indulge therein. So if you'd like to get on board, drop a note to Roland, and we'd love to see their great wine for an equally good cause. Then I mentioned Blind Ambition. It is on tonight. That's pretty much sold out at the waterfront. But if you are up in the Johannesburg region, head over to Web Tickets. There are a few tickets left over to join myself and Joseph tomorrow night at the Mall of Africa to celebrate this wonderful story of the Zimbabwean sommeliers. It's won awards all over the world. It has been celebrated all over the world, and the last few tickets are available for tomorrow night. And then one to look out for a little further down the way at the Untitled. This is the 26th of November, so put it in the diary. The Victorian Old World inspired night festival. The Untitled Wine picked up a couple of big recommendations from Wine Magazine and their reports earlier this year. They're making some really exciting wine on the other side of Paarl. Cool winemaker, lovely wine, very dry climate, but it's leading to some really, really nice wine. So that might be one for you to head out to and to enjoy. So there you go. There is some news for you from the world of wine. And that leads us into this evening's show. And it gives me great pleasure. And I generally say when I have it gives me great pleasure. This gives me genuine pleasure, Joseph. As somebody, and I'm not sure everybody knows this, watching Dan Really Likes Wine, I was born in Northern Ireland. I've lived in South Africa since I went to university. But from the age of 4, when I moved to Kwekwe, through Harare, through Marandera, Zimbabwe is where I grew up. It is where I call home. So being able to celebrate this Zimbabwean wine story makes me really, really happy. So welcome back, because you've been on before. Welcome back onto Dan Really Likes Wine.
Thank you so much, Dan. Should I say Makadi?
Diribo.
Good, man. Thank you so much, man. It's really been an absolute pleasure being on your shows, and also it's actually a privilege really to be interviewed by you today.
And to be speaking to you at a point in your journey where this fairy tale, which had already unfolded even before Blind Ambition, has just taken on a whole new meaning. Before we go back and look a bit more at the backstory and celebrate how you got to where you are now, what has the last few months been for you? And I'm going to ask Pardon the same question. Now that you guys are genuinely global wine superstars.
Well, thank you so much for putting it that way, I must say. But life has been really hectic in the past few months. When this documentary, Blind Ambition, that is, was premiered in Tribeca, New York, and when we won the Audience Award, that side, Montechino as well, and also in Brisbane, all and most of the journalists really wanted to actually interview us. I mean, from London, local journalists, I mean, the whole of Africa. So it's been really, really busy, like tight schedule, I must say, and lots of traveling. I mean, for the past 3 months, I've been traveling really big time. I haven't been able to see my family in a stretch 1 month in the past few months. So, yeah, look, I mean, it's really keeping us super busy, which is just such a good thing after having being stopped by COVID to actually operate.
Has it taken some getting used to, the fact that you're no longer just Joseph who gives great wine recommendations at a restaurant? There's a real celebrity culture around all 4 of you now.
Well, look, I mean, we're still sommeliers, I must say, but then again, yes, you're right. I mean, I'm no longer running up and down on the floor, but I do also some of the private dinners, a bit of consulting and all that stuff, but that's quite large. The celebrity side, well, I don't think we're celebrities yet, but maybe that will come soon. Look, I mean, the most important thing here is for us to tell our stories and also to inspire the little Joseph, the little Tinashe, the little Marvin, the little Pardon out there, so that they will be able to see that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You know, determination creates success, and you're gonna have to keep on pushing. You know, so there's no free cup of coffee in the world. You're gonna have to work for it.
Which you certainly have. And we're going to look back at that story and your journey of hard work in a moment. Let's cross over to Europe. And I think in Amsterdam, but I'm not really sure because he travels all over the place. And he's now a famous wine producer as well as being a great sommelier and wine figure. Pardon, welcome back to the show. Lovely to have you back. And looking rather familiar. That's a nice Cape Town t-shirt you've got on today.
Thank you very much, Dan, for having me. Hello to your viewers as well. Yeah, you know, home is always where the heart is, you know. So, you know, having my regalia with me.
I know it's not that long since we spoke on the show, but in case people did miss that particular broadcast, remind us where we find you today.
You find me in my comfortable home in Amsterdam. You find me in my comfortable home in Amsterdam today. So yeah, pretty my home office. Yeah, that's where you're getting me from.
And it's a place that you've called home for a little while, and we'll talk slightly more about your journey as well momentarily. But I want to ask you a very similar question to the one that I asked your compatriot here. Blind Ambition has taken the world by storm, and not just the wine world. I think it's transcended wine because it is a story that so many people have felt touched by. It's moved audiences everywhere, which is why you've won awards like the ones in Tribeca and in Brisbane. How much of an impact has Blind Ambition had on your life?
Yeah, look, it's you know, the documentary really had you know, an impact in my life at the moment, becoming way too busy, of course. You know, but overall for me, it's, you know, the inspiring part of it is what I really appreciate. You know, I have countless messages in my DMs every day of you know, people that are inspired with my story, inspired with the documentary, and also some of them are looking forward to actually watch the full documentary where it hasn't been screened like in full. So yeah, it has been busy, you know, busy still inspiring people, and also, you know, getting new networks as well, getting new friends, of course. And also, you know, just touching, you know, people's lives, you know.
Let's go back a bit before we talk about more about this incredible movie and talk about your wine journey, Pardon. You now find yourself in Amsterdam. Each one of you has had this remarkable journey that it's an unlikely journey because neither of you arrived in South Africa with a wine background, with wine knowledge, and yet that is where you arrived and where you find yourself now. Give us the snapshot of your journey from arriving in South Africa to finding yourself at the forefront of the world of wine.
Yeah, my journey was not an easy one. I'm sure for every other entrepreneur would actually also agree with me that, you know, there's no easy journey to accomplishing what you would like to accomplish in life, you know. Yeah, a quick snapshot is, you know, I arrived in South Africa, specifically in Ruby Castile, where my sister was actually based at that time. That was 2013, and I also met Joseph as well in the same valley. You know, it's a very small valley where, you know, everyone knows everyone. It's a very small community of Zimbabweans that lived there at that time as well. So, you know, we're more like a family. You know, everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows who is who's new to the valley, and everyone is, you know, quick to actually want to work with everyone, you know, to show each other ropes of, you know, how you actually get economically, you know, freedom. As you know, we're all coming from a deteriorating economy, which is Zimbabwe. So yeah, I met Joseph there, and I had my first glass of wine, which was Chenin Blanc from Babylon Speak Chenin, which Joseph bought for me, and it was not really a pleasant taste at that time because I didn't have the palate to appreciate wine. But one glass led to the second glass, and then it was a bottle, and yeah, we continued again, and which I could not report for duty for 2 days at work. The following days. But that's when the wine bug actually started hitting me, and I started studying the wines whilst I was a waiter, and I moved to become a barman, and I kept on studying as well with Cape One Academy, with WSET as well, which it was very, very fascinating, like what Joseph says, like determination breeds success, because I used to commute from Aribi Castile to Stellenbosch, by trains. So, which means I had to wake up around 4 a.m. to catch up the train, in Hermon. And, there was no intermediate transport that could actually take you there swiftly. So you could only rely with the trains, and yeah, and I would have to do the same as well coming back, so it would be an entire day of traveling and also studying as well. And whereas, if I was fortunate enough, it would have been, like a 35-minute drive to Stellenbosch to study, and then you come back home as well comfortably as well. But it was not an easy journey. I had to rely on public transport. I just kept on, having this zeal to want to learn and to want to embed myself in the industry as well. And then I left the hotel. Then I started working as a wine waiter / wine steward for Mama Cucina, where I created my first wine list there. And it was really, really, really an honor for me because I got to actually interact with with some of the best winemakers in Aribi Castile, the likes of Ibn Sadi, Chris Molyneux, Adi Badenost as well, because Mama Cucina was the casual spot for winemakers to come and have a good pizza and just be relaxed after a long day work. Fast forward that I was headhunted by Aubergine Restaurant in Cape Town, where I then started my journey of being an assistant sommelier at that time. But kept on going for studies as well. At that time, I was studying WSET 3 as well with Kathy Marston. I spent like 2 years, 1.5 years, at Aubergine as an assistant sommelier, and then after that, I was actually the sommelier in house. That's kind of like a snapshot of my story until Cape Town, which also 2017 I was the first runner-up of the best young sommelier for South Africa, which was sponsored by Moet and Chardon. And I was also among the top 5 tasters in the Western Cape as well, which booked me a ticket to actually compete for the nationals, so I can book a ticket to go to France. We also have, in that same year, we had three of other guys like Joseph, Tinashe, and Marvin that were also in top 10 as well. So we decided, under the advice of JV, to form a Team Zimbabwe, which we then, represented Team Zimbabwe in 2017 at the World Blind Tasting Championship, which, it was not really the best performance, but we managed to beat, one of the strongholds in wine history, which is Italy. 2018, we also went back again, a little bit more prepared as well. We did quite a lot of trainings as well, guided with Master of Wine Andrew Kaya, and we became 14th in the world, which was a milestone achievement. And so that's a snapshot, man. It's been a journey. It's been a long one.
It's a journey that has also led you to becoming a wine producer. A little later, we'll talk about wine that Greg Sherwood, who's watching the show from London, has referenced. Just received my samples from Pardon Taguzu's new venture in Austria. I'm very excited to taste the range. We'll talk about that in a moment. Words there regarding your first meeting. Do you remember pouring that first glass of wine for Pardon?
Indeed, yes. I mean, I remember it vividly. Yeah, I mean, it was actually during the afternoon when he popped in the restaurant, and he didn't have any much knowledge about wine, I would say, and he clearly asked me, what were you telling those guests? I mean, and I had you mention about wines and flavors and all that stuff. But that time, I had a little bit of knowledge about wines because I was already studying with Cape Town Academy. Then I poured in Pablo Speak Chenin Blanc before we actually opened any conversation. Then after that, that's when we started really chatting and all that stuff. So yeah, I remember.
Do you also remember, and I need to find out this true story is right or not, do you remember meeting a radio presenter called Ryan O'Connor, who was, I think, at that stage at KFM, and telling him that you were really interested in wine, and that I think that might have led to an introduction to Chris Molyneux?
Yes, I met Ryan O'Connor, I think that was winter of 2013, yes, when KFM was actually doing its Western Cape tours. Then they were in Rebecca still, Ryan O'Connor, that's when I first met him, but I've been really a follower and listener of KFM. Then I met also Lisa Van Vestes, and that's some time. Yeah, so yes, we had drinks actually in the evening at the Royal Hotel, and he was really liking his whiskey that evening. So I told him my story and all that stuff, and yeah, then we became really good friends since then until now.
And that was Rubik Castile. We heard Pardon's journey there, which has meandered through to finding himself in Amsterdam. What was the space between Rubik Castile and becoming the man behind La Colombe?
That was quite a quick one, I must say, because I actually started studying wine in mid-2012. But then when I worked at Aubergines at Barman in 2011 for 6 months, that's when I learned a lot, mostly about foreign wine pairing. And yeah, so mid-2012, Cape Town Academy all the way to all certificates, then started studying diploma. Then I did WSCT as well. That's when in 2014, that's when October, that's when La Colombe actually had handed me through Jennifer Ouche, who was the French lady who was the manager at that time. She's now co-owning Fine Restaurant. So it was such a quick one because look, we were pushing. I was actually pushing hard, like really splitting myself thin, because all I wanted was to be the best. So then joined La Colombe. Then the rest was history.
I've had many great meals there. I've enjoyed the wine with you. And every time we've had an interaction around wine, as with the interactions I've had with Pardon, as with Tinashe, as with Malvin, what sets you guys aside is just how passionate you are about it and enthusiastic you are about this wine space. What is it for you that wine does for you? Why does wine bring out this big smile, these bright shining eyes, this real love of what you do?
Look, wine is the only relationship which you cannot cheat. That's why I love it. I mean, wine brings people together. Wine is in universal language, I would want to think. Look, I mean, you get like employment, you get really investments, forex, you name it. I mean, it brings like a whole lot of like a package together. I mean, if you do it properly. So I saw it really fitting to actually keep on really wanting to know more about wine, studying wine. I mean, I went as far as getting Code of Master certification, and yeah. So for me, wine is not just a beverage. It's really, there's more to it, which most people really don't realize. I mean, I personally don't drink wine not anymore. Drink wine to get drunk. So yeah.
Not like Pardon on his first day out in Rubik Castile. You see that sentiment exactly come through really strongly in the movie. Tell us about how this came together. What was the first conversation? How did the idea come about of creating what we now know as Blind Ambition?
Well, firstly, I would say I had a conversation with Erica Plata. I mean, I know she hasn't been mentioned a lot, but to be honest with you, Erica Plata did quite a lot in this documentary. I mean, I had a conversation which on Facebook, that is, I still have the conversation in my inbox. So I spoke to Erica and I said, Erica, I've got a story which I would like to tell you. And we kept on chatting. Then I was like, but it's not only myself. There are actually other Zimbos in the wine industry. Then she said, please put all of them together if you can. I'm flying down from Durban with John. Can we meet all of you guys? Then I brought in Melusi, Malvin, Tinashe, who else was myself? Job, I think, was there. I don't remember if he was there. I think he was actually busy with something else. So then, as we actually kept on going with the conversation, then a few guys dropped off because of work commitments. Then Pardon came in. So then Erica Plata wrote a story about these Zimbos, in Cape Town, in all these luxurious establishments, really. Then she sent that article to Chance Robinson. So then Chance actually wrote about us as well. So then Andrew Kaya, the master of wine from Australia, who was mentioned by Pardon, met Chance Robinson in the south of France at some testing. Then Chance really just dropped that story to Andrew Kaya, and Andrew Kaya wrote it down, put in his suit coat or pocket, and completely forgot about it for 4 months. Then when he went back to Australia, he said he met Warwick Ross at a testing again. Then he remembered that it was a piece of paper from Charles Robinson about these 4 guys in Cape Town. So that was actually when we were quite closer to go to the World Cup already. I think it was around September thereabout. So when Warwick Ross and Rob Coy heard about us, they jumped on, that time it was Skype. We Skyped each other and other stuff. Then within 2 weeks, they flew down to Cape Town. And the document, that was the birth of the document of Blind Ambition.
Let's head back to Amsterdam and back to Pardon. Pardon, what was the experience of making this like? How involved were you guys with the filming? And what was it like going back, remembering your story and retelling the adventure that had taken you up to this point?
Yeah, it was really quite interesting, because for me, I hadn't been home for quite a long time. So it was a constant time of filming. We would film the whole day, and we would travel as well because the directors Warwick and Rob wanted to get to the marrow of the story, so they needed us to travel from point A to point B. We needed to be in service. People see exactly what we do. We need to do tastings as well, and it's quite interesting because they would actually tell you to they would mic you up and then they would tell you to act normal, which was crazy for me. Like, okay, you give me all this gear and you ask me to act normal. It's a little bit of a tricky one, but it was quite interesting, and getting to go back home, seeing my extended families as well, and having all these guys following you with cameras, and walking the path I used to walk when I was in Zimbabwe. It was really quite a journey, which humbled me at the same time as well. But when it was happening, I was also in disbelief. Like, okay, we shooting this documentary. Where is it going to end up? And what is it all about? But overall, it was quite a very interesting journey of filming. And also get to share the stories, my personal life story as well with the world now on the big screens. So yeah, overall that was my take on that.
Deborah Spazzoli is watching at the moment on Facebook. She says, "I've seen the movie, brilliant." Pardon, what was it like when you saw it for the first time? Was it laughter? Was it tears? Was it a complete wave of emotion?
Yeah, look, this, if you look closely to this documentary, this is basically our personal lives, and we got to share some some stuff which was quite emotional. And for me at that time, I had just lost my mother, and when I first screened the documentary, I got so emotional. I still get emotional even now as well, when I watch the documentary, even when I just watch the trailer, it reminds me quite a lot of emotions and also stuff which I was going through at that time. I was dealing with having lost my mother. So yeah, it was quite an emotional experience, and it is still.
What about for you, Joseph? You were telling me earlier you think you've seen it about 12 times now. When you watched it for that very first time, though, what was the experience like?
Oh, I did. I mean, like what Pardon said, there are some certain stories which we actually managed to unearth, or really which we shared with the whole world, which were quite private, so those things really, like just revisiting your life when you were like a toddler, walking to school barefoot, having to come back home without any food. Probably your mom didn't cook because she was doing something else, and living in Zimbabwe when the shelves were completely dry, with no food at all, having to get your salary, which can only manage to buy possibly half loaf of bread. I mean, all those things. When you think about that, it's really raise emotions. You know what I mean? So like what Pardon said. I mean, it's really it's that small hair-raising moment, and very emotional. I mean, I've watched it. Today's on the 12th or 13th time. I watched it again 4 or 5 days ago in Windhoek. But every time I watch this documentary, I see it on a different angle, I'd say. I get to be motivated again, and I see different things every single minute, every single time I watch it. So yeah, it was quite emotional.
We are talking about Blind Ambition, the documentary that's been described as the cool runnings of wine. I see my mum, who also spent many years in Zimbabwe, watching my film of the year, watched in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and I haven't met anyone who hasn't loved this story. If you haven't seen it yet, find it, watch it. It is remarkable. And it is remarkable too in that it has inspired further impetus to your wine journey and to Pardon's journey. You've both got wine on the go. We'll talk about Pardon's Austrian wine with them in a second. Let's start with your wine and the white wine in particular. It's not a huge step from being a sommelier to getting more involved in terms of your own wine. Was it something you always wanted to do? And what was the process in terms of deciding to make your own wine?
Look, I mean, when one is studying to be a sommelier, you will be knowing the viticultural side of sommelier, or that is growing grapes, and the viticulture as well, which is making wine. So in 2014, actually, let me take you back to 2013. I volunteered to be an intern at Chris and Andrea Malenyo cellar. So we actually woke up in the morning, I think around 3ish, thereabout in the morning. And we spent the whole day harvesting in Paardeberg and the whole of Swartland, Riebeek West. Then I learned a lot that day, really, in a way that the following year, I used that knowledge which I had grasped the previous year to make 1 bottle of Chenin Blanc and 1 bottle of Syrah with their guidance.
Explain making it. How much of the process were you involved with?
So 2014, I bought grapes from Farm 112. I think that was from 120. So yes, which was owned by Anton Esfos then. So I went to actually do harvest with Roger Clayton. So we did everything. I still have the photos, stomping, like literally doing almost every single thing, the whole process, not really just buying the wine that particular year. So then since then, 2014, I never looked back. At that time, it was just a hobby, to be honest. I just made it because I really wanted to, And I said, if no one's going to buy my wine, I'll drink it with my friends. And it had such a huge following. My friends actually bought my wine. It was not great. I mean, I still have the bottles. And every time I visit one bottle after probably 6 months or a year, it tastes different. But then that time it was not very palatable, I think. So 2016, 16, I think, that's when I realized that this hobby can pretend to be really business. And 2017, then I started really increasing the production, and now here we are. I'm full on mostly wines and spirits. So I'm really like employed by most wines and spirits now, 100%.
I walked into Pick and Pay on Nickel, which has got one of the better wine selections in Johannesburg, and there was the smiling face of Tongai Joseph Dhafana looking out at me from labels across the store. The wine is now in store. We can see there the wine we're about to drink, the Sauvignon Blanc. We've got a glass of it. Tell me a little bit about this wine and why you chose Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, look, firstly, let me just put it this way, because I know most, like the audience might be really confused a little bit. So Tongai range, we have the Sauvignon Blanc from Durbanville, then we have Chardonnay from Robertson, and also Freedom Red Blend from Durbanville as well. So Durbanville is actually from Demasdale. So this is actually a collaboration amongst three guys. The wine industry is very bad when it comes to diversity. I mean, you will see that when Charles Robinson mentioned. So there are three guys. One is actually American, the president of Vinosphere. Then one is actually Michael Frijon and myself. We came together and actually make this Tongai series. So Sauvignon Blanc is something which is really light in most cases, really. I mean, it's very fresh, crowd pleaser, if I put it that way, and it can easily be paired, with mostly like seafood dishes, your salads, and some cheese as well. So we went for this Sauvignon Blanc from Demasdale. A fraction, I would say 35% of this wine is actually from 8 Rows, which is their premium Sauvignon Blanc. Then the rest is from one block which is on top of the hill, which traps in all the sea breeze. And the wine is actually fermented in stainless steel tank. Then it was left on the list for 4 months just to get a bit of more structure and weight. I mean, it's very clean, easy drinking, and very fresh as well. It's very fresh cutting acidity. That's why I actually like Sauvignon Blanc.
It's hard for me to drink this wine on its own without putting it in a context, and you'll apologize for the context, but I remember growing up in Zimbabwe, and the only white wine you'd ever see was Green Valley. I don't know if you remember Green Valley.
Yes, correct, yeah.
It was very good at removing stains from things. It was so this is obviously another world entirely. So the Sauvignon Blanc, tell me a little bit about the Chardonnay.
So the Chardonnay, we make that at Van Loven in Robertson, the Tongai Chardonnay. So Robertson, most people really think that Robertson is actually got a warmer climate, but it's quite cooler than probably Stellenbosch and Paarl. Why? Of course, they are 100 kilometers away from really the coast, which is Cape Agulhas, but then it's very open, so the wind can actually be blown straight to Robertson to cool the vines. Rich limestone soils is what you do get, which gives a bit of more riper tropical fruits to the wine. The wine was actually fermented in the barrel for about 9 months. Every week, the barrel was actually being rolled, mixing the wine with the yeast. That's a bit of patronage, we call it, to give more palate weight and structure as well. So it's really interesting, more food friendly, more of your stone fruits, a bit of more, I would say, yellow fruits as well coming through as well. So that's something which is actually we have in Pick and Pay.
That is the second of the whites. There's a red as well, also from Durbanville. Before we try that, though, let's head back to the Zimbabwean ambassador of wine for the Netherlands and find out from Pardon. Pardon, what on earth are you doing making wine in Austria?
Well, then it's quite interesting. It's a quite interesting story. A Zimbabwean in Europe making wines in Austria. This journey came about. It came about around about in 2018 because I visited Austria at that time, and a friend of mine lives actually in the northern part, which is Salzburg. So when I visited him at that time, we were just sitting on his speedboat and just talking about life and life achievements, because I just recently moved to Europe, and he was asking me, so what would you want to do? What is your next step? Because now you're importing wines into Europe, but what is the next step? Where do you see yourself going in the coming 5 years? So I strongly say to him, I would really like to own my own wine brand, which resonates with my people, which also brings my taste to the European market as well. So yeah, it just happened in an instant, and the following day we were actually traveling to still further up north of Austria in Weinviertel, just above Wachau. And I met this young guy who was just taking over the reins of his winery, his father's winery, because his father was actually going into retirement. So I met him, and we were actually tasting some of his wines, which were really great wines, and I liked his style. And I also liked the region as well itself, because I was born in Wonder Valley, which is a very small, tiny community valley, which is close to the border of Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And this is quite it's quite a cool area. We do quite a lot of tea there. We do quite a lot of bananas there as well. And in Weinviertel, it's very, very small. It's about 250 inhabitants in that small village. And they have this amazing soils, which is called Los, which is quite good, especially for high aromatic grapes, like Grüne Veltliner, like Riesling as well. So I fell in love with that, with that region, and we made a really good connection with this young guy, and I proposed to him that I would like to work with you in the near future, because I would like to create my own wine brand. And yeah, he was quite, he's quite young, he's same age as me, and he was quite open. He said, what, I'm quite open to work with you. Let me know what you think, and how you actually want to roll out your business in wine. So yeah, and after that, I left, and then I went back to the Netherlands, and 3 months down the line, I came back again to visit him. And this was the birth of the project. But at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to call this wine brand. So I started doing harvest with him, and I was purely involved as well, because his mother is also the viticulturalist. So it's more like it's a very small family-owned business. So it's quite easy to get information, to get knowledge from everyone, because when they go to the vineyards, it's it's the father, it's the mother, it's the sister, it's his wife, it's like a family. And which I'm quite grateful for that, because they also have taken me as part of their family as well. So yeah, so I was involved in the harvesting, the cellar work, with my experience of knowing the market in the Netherlands as well. I also started helping him as well with his blends as well, to achieve exactly the best blends that he needs for the Dutch market. And vice versa, I also started learning quite a bit more the technical side of the winemaking. And I fast forward that as well. This year, I decided this is probably the year that I have to actually release my maiden vintage, which I then named Zimbabwe, which means House of Stone. And this is basically quite a very interesting inspiration behind it, because the wine world is quite small. And it is actually filled with people that that work with each other. It's about community. It's about sharing. Because once a bottle of wine is popped, it's better. It tastes better when it's shared than when you drink it alone, because you don't have the memories, you don't have the experience to create. So I called my wines Zimbabwe, which is House of Stone, which is pitting on the label the Great Zimbabwe, which is one of the oldest monuments from Zimbabwe, which was it was built in like 1300s, where people only thrived on hop, and they basically were stacking stones on top of the other. Without any cement, just hoping that this structure would actually protect them against enemies. and they would actually, stood the test of time, especially when it comes to heavy rains and and heavy winds as well, which, since the 1800s, these structures have actually stayed intact until to date. And this was a community which used to house, about 18,000 people, which is a community that shared everything together. They shared, livestock. They shared, traditionally brewed beer. They shared, memories. They shared the culture as well, which is exactly what the wine business is all about. Is about sharing. It's about the community, and it's about the network that you create along the way. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, making wines in Austria, which is quite a very unique story, right?
It certainly is. I'm going to try and get hold of some of that wine and have you back on the show so we can actually taste it together, Pardon. But it's just another strand to this story that, like the other three, you have woven into a quite wonderful one to listen to. That is the wine that's being made in Austria. We do have one more wine to have a quick taste of, going back to Durbanville, where I often find the red wine's a little underrated because the Sauvignon Blanc in particular tends to hold sway from Durbanville. We forget that it does have a great history. Go back to the famous GS66 for a good example. There's a lot of really nice red wine coming out of that area, made by a number of the estates. I suspect this will be one of them. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, this is such a lovely blend. We called it Freedom. It's 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, then you get 35% Merlot and 15% Shiraz. So this wine was actually matured for 14 months in French oak barrels. There's no new wood in this one, but it actually added like oxtails. And then the rest is second, third, and fourth fill barrel. It's really it's not right in your face. I mean, you actually have tested it. It's very inviting, great nose and great intensity, balanced acidity. You get a bit more leather, spice, slightly herbaceous. You do get that, and a bit of I would say, pencil shades. I mean, that's your Cabernet Sauvignon, and so your mellow actually softens the two grape varieties together, which is the Cabernet and the Shiraz. So all these fruits actually from Durbanville, and like you mentioned, we tend really to forget that apart from really good Sauvignon Blancs which we have in Durbanville, we can easily make like very good rates as well. So yeah, how do you like it?
I'm completely taken with it, which is not surprising because I know you've worked very hard on this and you've got it from an area that, broadly speaking, gives us like some of the great Durendal red blends, for instance, the Rubaya to that, and there are a lot out of that area. And the advantage it has is the softness that comes out of, I think those cool breezes do help. It takes some of the sting. It's not a tannic wine. It's still got some body to it. It's got some nice grip, but it slides down almost dangerously well, doesn't it?
Well, indeed. Honestly, I mean, it's such a great one with really great intensity and velvet tannins. Really, the styles are very subtle. These can be paired with. I mean, I hate really doing wine pairing, but then I often throw in a dish when I'm tasting wine. I mean, this can be paired with any like venison dishes, and also like your beef as well can actually do that. You can actually do it lamb roasted. This is really such a lovely wine, I must say.
Well, I think we're in a time now where our hard and fast rules about what we can and can't drink stuff with have gone out the window. So we can have a lot of fun experimenting with this. We're almost at the end of the show. We have a screening to go and host. Before we do that, I want to fire one last question off to Pardon, and that is about your quartet. I'm not going to give the game away for people who haven't watched it yet, but you have a great result. You didn't win the competition. Is there, Pardon, a thought just somewhere in the back of the head that maybe you get the band back together and you head back to the tournament and have one more crack as Team Zimbabwe?
Yeah, definitely. We actually have that planned already. We are going again this year. for one last more dance, and we hopefully thumbs up that we actually get the trophy back home. But overall as well, it's about still going there to learn, still going there as well to to have good fun and have more experience as well, that we can also teach the next teams as well that would have the opportunity to go and participate at this world stage, of blind wine tasting championship. So yeah, definitely the last dance is coming in about a few weeks' time.
And possibly another film from there. Ronaldo Silvestri, our producer, can't wait to watch this film. Trailer had me in tears. All these guys are such legends. Team Zimbabwe. And Alexander Reichel asking a question I think many people will be asking. Joseph, any idea where we can watch the movie? If you're in South Africa, how do you get to see this?
Those in Cape Town, I think it's still showing as Tekeneko Waterfront and at Labia as well. I'm not so sure about Johannesburg, because I actually checked today, and Tekeneko Joburg, I think, stopped really screening it. But yeah, those in Cape Town, they still have the chance to go and watch it in Waterfront and at Labia. But as soon as we have more information, we'll actually post. We'll let you know that we can actually post on your page. Those in Zim, please expect to watch it on the 25th of October in Harare, Tekeneko. Then 26th in Victoria Falls, 27th in Bulawayo, and we will be actually touring all those cities, all the four guys and some other supporters.
All right, we'll update you for viewings in Chagutu, Shishawane, and Kadoma as soon as we have them. And Helen Nicol, my mum, just chirping in at the end there. You'll cry through the whole movie too, but often tears of joy. Joseph, to you and to Pardon, taking time out of the Amsterdam schedule. Guys, to both of you, thank you very much. I think Pardon's still with us. We look forward to seeing how the third round plays out when you guys head back together. But whatever happens there, it's just such a wonderful story. Those who have watched it, full of joy and full of emotion. Those who haven't, have got a real treat, especially if they're part of the screenings tonight and tomorrow. So Pardon, thank you so much for being part of the show, joining us from Amsterdam. I'm going to get hold of some of that Zimbabwean Austrian wine and see how it compares to Makuyu's finest, and look forward to tasting it with you. And let us know when you're back in South Africa, because we'd love to have you on the show in person.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you very much to your viewers for watching and also listening as well.
All right, Joseph, we've got a screening to go and see, but I think just in closing, thanks so much for being part of this evening. It's lovely to see the wine on shelves in Pick and Pay, and as we've tasted, it is some lovely wine and very well priced, and just another extension of this fairy tale of yours that doesn't seem to stop.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for having me. Look, is it something which I like doing? Like I mentioned earlier on, I just want to be the best. It's not really a matter of making more wines and make money. For those who understand the trade very well or the industry very well, there's no really much money make in making wine, but it's just my passion and I like doing this. That little which we're making, we always want to share with those the less privileged, I must say. So yeah, it's something which I like doing. Let's see how it goes. Like these ones we're testing today, they are readily available Pick and Pay Waterfront and Pick and Pay Constantia as well for those in Western Cape.
All right, and across Johannesburg as well. Look out for them, look out for the movie, and look out for Dan Really Likes Wine being back on Monday when I join the Joburg foodie Steve Steinfeld at Mr. Pants Wine Bar as part of the new Star Wine List. We're having a look at the top performers across Johannesburg. And with that, we're off to the movies together. I've got a hot date with Joseph, so I will bid you farewell. Thank you again. Dhafana. And thank you everybody for watching. This has been Dan Really Likes Wine. Thank you to Heinrich and to Joe and to the team at the Table Bay, our home of Dan Really Likes Wine in Cape Town. We will see you back again live on Monday from Mr. Pants Wine Bar. Until then, I've got a movie to see and I cannot wait. Goodbye.
Light. A picture unfolding in the horizon, showcasing the dreaminess of the Cape. Be captivated by the architecture, moved by the treasures of the ocean, and enthralled by the beauty of fauna and flora alike. leading up to the doors of your home away from home. Welcome to the best address in Cape Town. Come in, relax, feel at home. Allow us to take care of you and your needs. Bask in a space that is yours. Immerse yourself in luxury. Discover all the finer details and be dazzled by the little things. Prepare for a gastronomical adventure, served with care, precision, and finesse, engaging all the senses. And as the night draws to a close, let the sparkle and decadence of your time with us fill your senses as another day passes over the mountain that is Cape Town's wonder, the Table Bay.
To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.